Guys, we all agree we were gonna skip 2020, right?
Yes!
It's impossible.
So they said that Vikings Part B was going to happen in 2020, and technically December 30th is 2020. But still, dude, welcome back. We've got the trailer for Part B of Season 6 of Vikings. There's so many interesting things I want to cover here, so we'll jump right into it.
Everyone will always underestimate you. You must make them pay for it.
So it's become quite clear now from the teaser we got from the Comic-Con drop and now this trailer that what we saw on the beach with Bjorn getting stabbed was likely very real, but he didn't die. So in the beginning of Part B, we're going to face a Bjorn who just suffered a massive loss, is bedridden with a massive injury that could claim his life, with most of his allies out of the picture, with Jarl Torkelton dying and Harold being captured. So if we thought Bjorn was pretty broody and angsty and irritable last season, well, I imagine he's not going to be better. Now, something that's quite interesting is that dialogue we get from Ragnar telling Bjorn not to let him be underestimated by others. This could be a little bit of a hint towards the idea the Roos are completely unaware that Bjorn did not die on that beach, and maybe could signify a chance of him redeeming himself and coming back strong, even though he's so heavily wounded and faced so many losses over and over. But we'll come back to that idea in a bit.
My darling Bjorn. We lost Ragnar. We lost Lagertha. Perhaps the golden age of the Vikings is gone.
So we could see this scene with the people who care about Bjorn around his bed as he's facing this really massive injury that could claim his life. We hear this interesting monologue from Gunhild as she talks in kind of a despairing manner about how perhaps the golden age of the Vikings is already over. We know through Part A of the season they've really played into this idea of Ragnarok, this destruction of the mythic age of Vikings, which on a meta level is reflected in the fact that the show is coming to an end, and that we have covered all the lives and stories of the characters the show was really about, i.e. Ragnar, Lagertha, and even now Bjorn.
We need you to live, to lead us. The army is vast. And Ivar is with him.
So as we can see, the Roos are as strong as ever, with an overwhelming force and a victory behind their backs already. At this point, it seems very difficult to believe that Bjorn or the Scandinavian forces could really have any hope of overcoming Oleg, especially if Ivar keeps backing him. So with this hopelessness kind of creeping in, these people are turning to Bjorn and hoping he can pull out some sort of miracle and lead the way to victory. But for Bjorn to do that, he would have to overcome the massive strategic and tactical disadvantage they have, severe physical injury, and his own immense internal anguish. It would be hard under these conditions not just to fall into despair, let alone turn things around. So it will be really fascinating to see what Bjorn does, what approach he'll focus on, and actually if it will work or not. And later on in this trailer, we get a small glimpse of what that might just be.
I don't think my destiny lies here.
I have ambitions.
When they dig up my bones, I want them to say, here is the most famous Viking who ever lived.
So we could see that Oleg and Igor are returning to a town or city that has a very Roos-like design. And to some interest, the expression we see on Oleg here is not nearly as victorious or happy as what we saw at the end of Part A. Not only that, Ivar has this kind of anxious and nervous expression, and Katja kind of withdraws her hands from this balcony in a bit of shock or stun. Strangely kind of moody and brooding, but I don't know why. Then we get a small piece of a conversation between Ivar and Katja, where he expresses his dissatisfaction with what's going on and his ambition to be the greatest Viking of all time. We see him still holding that Norse statue of Odin. They splice in him planning and talking with Hvitserk, giving us the sense that he's not fulfilled with what he's done in Scandinavia. Even if they were victorious, he was only beating out Bjorn. And it's pretty obvious for anyone who's been paying attention where exactly that ambition should take him. England.
Vikings, come with me, be like the gods, and reach for Valhalla!
And finally we get Alfred back, and he's looking more badass than ever. For so long, we've seen Ivar try desperately to build a legacy greater than even that of Ragnar's. He's fought his brothers and sided with the Rus and tried to make himself a god, but all of it fell short, and even when he achieved victory, it was hollow. And hopefully now over this season, it looks like he's realizing what we've all realized for so long, and that's been foreshadowed for so long, is that his destiny, his big moment, is in England against Alfred. And from the looks of things, they're not going to hold back on the violence, on the battle, on the fire, and it's going to be epic.
I have to find that golden lad. It's everything my father dreamed of. I'd rather die than return to Philly.
So we commit our bodies to the deep.
So we saw over part A, Ubbe trying to live and fulfill the dream that Ragnar wanted of a peaceful, settled land, away from all the cycles of blood and violence that have dominated Scandinavia for so long. So while we get all these epic battles and confrontations between Bjorn and Alfred and Ivar, we'll probably have this kind of like side quest cutaway to Ubbe trying to find this golden land, facing all the hurdles and challenges that being such a on-the-edge explorer comes with. And even though this is quite detached from the main storyline, I still will really enjoy it. I love the dynamic between him and the Wanderer and Torvi, and from all the CGI and images we've seen, they're not going to hold back on the epicness and excitingness of following Ubbe on this story. That tease of the big serpent dragon type thing in the water that we see on maps all the time that come from legends, which is likely just from like, delirious sailors way out at sea during a storm, but still it's kind of cool to see them put that in there and show a route to that kind of myth that we see all the time.
I've been lost for so long. I abandoned the brother I loved the most. Since it's my fate to kill you, it makes sense for me to stay with you, I suppose.
Now we've seen a lot with Ivar and Hvitserk kind of buddied up over this trailer and last season, so they're going to stick together this season as well. Their relationship is so confusing yet fun. They're both just really insane and off their rockers, which creates this chemistry where they can both embrace their more chaotic and crazy sides while still having this kind of really combative and competitive rivalry. Much like so many characters in this show, Hvitserk has accumulated so much baggage, from losing loved ones to betraying his friends and brothers, and even falling down the spiral of addiction. And his solution to move forward to get past it has just been to basically wipe his mind of it all and just go whatever direction the world takes him. So I imagine for the rest of the season we'll still see him be the loose cannon that's out there in the field, being crazy, bouncing off of Ivar, and it'll be fun to watch.
Kattegat is at our mercy. We're massively outnumbered. You have just given up. Some of us will perish. For a Viking, death is bliss.
Don't be afraid.
I'm still alive, huh? What took you so long?
So with the Viking world and Scandinavia facing the Rus threat, this massive, organized and powerful army with Ivar at the helm, they will decide to face the fire head on, to fight and die as Vikings and go to Valhalla. Even Bjorn, with all of the things that have happened to him, with all of the ways he could have broken down into despair, that's not what it seems Bjorn will do. We see Gunhild strapping his armor onto his almost lifeless corpse. It's likely they sling him on the back of the horse and march him out at the head of the army to face the Rus. His sword quivering in his hand as he barely able to raise it, and yet he can strike fear into all those who underestimated him and thought he might have died. It's going to be interesting to see how Oleg and the Rus react to that Viking spirit, their culture and way that is so unique and powerful. Oleg's the type of person that likes to dominate and crush his enemies, but he might not get the cathartic kick he would have hoped for from this victory. But regardless what happens in Scandinavia or in England, this season and the end of this show is going to go out with a bang. Massive battles, awesome payoff, and some really great endings. Thanks so much for watching this video, and I hope you're looking forward to the new season of Vikings as much as me. If you have any thoughts on this trailer or my commentary on it, then make sure to leave those comments below. Going backwards and forwards, discussing your guys' ideas and thoughts is always the best part about making these videos, and it's what ties me over this whole month so I can get to December 30th. And if you'd be so kind as to like this video and subscribe if you haven't, that would be splendid as well. Skål!